as you know, I'm trying to build awareness amongst the youth and in general through the work that I do and making people aware of different issues under climate change as a whole, but more specifically on air pollution and waste segregation. So today, of course, this conversation is going to be more focused towards the waste segregation. One question which I've always had, what are some of the other myths that you face with regards to composting?
Well, people don't understand that it's a natural process. It's happening all the time in our environment. It's a breakdown of organic matter, and everything that falls on the ground is getting recycled into creating that soil which has life. When you look at composting in urban spaces, I mean, if you go to villages, it's a part of their agriculture. It's nothing new for them. So there is a little learning curve that you need to go through. People are also afraid of creepy crawlies. Compost system actually has its own ecosystem, which has all these things that are actually breaking down the organic matter. If you want it sanitized, it won't break down. Right? You need microorganisms, you need all those little bugs that are running around in your compost, including the maggots, the black soldier fly maggots. They're all part of the ecosystem. I have seen a huge shift. There are people on a daily basis tagging me on a post which their first compost, they're holding it and they're feeling so proud of it. They put pictures of it. So I see a huge shift in the urban scenario where people are wanting to do it, because I feel composting is one great action. It's an everyday action to bring back and build soil.
You mentioned composting in urban spaces. One more sort of question or concern, or jaise Hindi mein they say bahana, which comes up, is that they say ki, oh, we stay in an apartment complex, we can't do it and stuff like that. But in my experience and to my knowledge, all you basically need for a basic compost is perhaps a little sturdy box. A few leaves, stuff like that. So is it possible even to do compost in apartments or in balconies, stuff like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I live on the third floor apartment. I'm lucky to have a terrace, but in my drawing room balcony, which is 6 feet by 3.5 or 4 feet, I have 4 systems of composting happening there. 2 worm bins, and I have a regular composting. So space is a constraint only when your mind thinks that you can't do it. But people have done it in the smallest spaces. I had a friend who didn't even have a balcony. She did very simple. She bought a ready-made kit which comes with a brick that has both the coco peat and microbes. So it's just a layering method, and she did it perfectly. And it was just next to her front door inside the house. And she didn't have any problem. As long as she lived in that flat, she continued composting, but she didn't have any garden to grow or pots to keep. So she would bring that compost to me, and I would use it in my terrace.
You mentioned that you have 2 worm compost bins and 2 regular ones, or 1 regular one. So what's the difference between these two? Is it between these 2 methods of composting? Is it that the wormy one is more faster, better quality of compost?
There is aerobic composting and there is anaerobic composting. Aerobic composting is the regular composting that we keep it aerated, a lot of oxygen. We use brown stuff. We use the fresh green stuff that comes from our kitchen and add some kind of microbes to accelerate the process. That's the aerobic composting. You can do it zero cost, where you don't have to invest anything. Take an old paint bucket, use the dry leaves that the tree shed in certain seasons, collect them and keep them, and add as simple thing as like a katta dahi, a curd that is very sour. You can make a buttermilk and keep and add that to introduce microorganisms to speed up the composting. So these are some of the things that you can do in a simple aerobic composting. Vermicomposting is the next level. If you start growing your own food, your vegetables, your greens, vermicompost is great addition as an amazing fertilizer, the kind of nutrients that a worm casting can give. The worms eat up the food waste that you give them, and they excrete, and these are the castings. And we are looking out for those castings that we can introduce into our soil and keep our plants healthy. And then the anaerobic is bokashi method of composting. That's especially in urban spaces when you don't have space to compost. It can be kept in the kitchen. That's another wonderful, that's 2 phase. One is the pickling stage and another is the composting stage. So you can experiment with whatever suits you.
I'm not scared of worms, but I put everything into the compost. I put the leaves, I put the soil, I put some food waste, but there were no worms. The question or the misconception that people have is that your normal compost can also develop into wormy compost, which I think is not true, right? You have to introduce the worms into the system and then sort of...
Exactly. I get this question repeatedly. ma'am, I don't see
Yeah.
worms in my bin. They're not
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
Worms are not growing in my bin. They don't just grow.
Yeah.
You have to introduce, and
Yeah.
you don't introduce into the regular composting bin. It has to be a separate,
Okay.
it's a different system altogether. You can't overwhelm them
Mm.
with too much of fresh food, because so much of heat is getting created, and they don't like stuffy heat, too much of heat there. So we need to be
Mm.
careful how we feed a worm bin. So it's a little, I think it's the next step after you learn and get a hang of it.
It's not the beginning thing.
Yeah.
I've always advocated for simple sustainability where there's no additional cost. You don't want these fancy technologies where you can do simple things. Is it a worthy investment, or is it just, just do it in any random thing?
I always talk about a zero
Mm.
cost when I introduce composting to
Yeah.
people, because for me it is like most people will have issues with investing because they don't know if it's going to
Exactly.
work. So if you're doing for the first time, I would just definitely not even tell you to invest, because you're not very sure if it works for you, because I don't know how passionately they will connect to the
Mhm.
to that activity itself.
I personally had sort of discovered the zero waste that come across it on the net. The idea of using citrus peels, all those things, and putting it in either vinegar or something else, and then using that as a cleaning agent in your house instead of buying, I don't know, the Mr. Muscle and all of those things that come. So that, of course, is one method. But what are some of these other methods which DIY or whatever you like to call them, where instead of composting, you can use them in different ways?
It is like there are certain peels that you can put into use. Like if you have banana peels, it can either go into the compost, or
Mm-hmm.
you can make great fertilizers for your plants, for your soil in your garden. So you can soak the
Mm-hmm.
banana peels for a couple of days and then use that water, and then bury the peel into the soil itself. So that can be one of
Mm-hmm.
the things. Onion peels can be again soaked in water and used. But citrus peels, when you squeeze a lime, or you eat a musambi, or any
Mm.
citrus fruit, the peels can definitely be used as a multi-purpose cleaner. You can make a
Mm-hmm.
bioenzyme. It is like trying to keep chemicals away from your home. It's you can use it as a floor cleaner. Any surface you can clean, the glass, the bathrooms. I even use bioenzymes as a conditioner for my hair. Put a little bit
Mm-hmm.
along with the natural cleaners that I use, like Rita,
Okay.
the soap nuts, and the shikakai. So
Mm.
these are all
Mm.
natural soap agents that we use. We have been
Mm.
using for centuries. Like if you go back to grandmothers and great
But we've
grandmothers,
forgotten about them.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
forgotten. So if we could replace with natural cleaners, I mean that's like you feel so good
So
about.
what do you do to
So
replace those?
in anywhere that you need as a cleanser, when you need a
Mm.
soap agent, then the
Mm.
soap nut, that is the Rita.
Okay. Mm.
That is, if you soak it overnight in hot water, next morning you squeeze, you get that liquid. It's like a golden
Okay.
liquid that you store it
Mm.
in a bottle and then use it
Mm.
multi-purpose. You can use it to wash your hair. You can put it into your
Mm.
laundry. You can use it as a dishwash. You can use any surface that needs cleaning with soap. You can use
Mm.
Rita.
One question which is always in my generation, when we look at Instagram influencer, that means these people who are making reels and they're doing these TikTok dances and they're doing all of that. What was your journey on becoming an Instagram influencer? Did you ever think that this was something that was going to happen? Your ideas just sort of, your method just went viral and then one
No,
thing led to another.
I had no idea that I would reach somewhere like this. But I have
Mm.
been on Facebook for the longest time. I took to social media because I found it as a very powerful tool to convey a message. People used to say, "Oh, it's all for the youngsters." I said,
Mm.
"Fine, let the youngsters use, but I have some message to pass." So I
Mm.
started using. And for me, I was always photo documenting stuff. I can't write much. I don't do blogs and
Mm.
all that. So for me, it's
Mm.
easier to
Mm.
tell a story or talk about an event with a lot of pictures, just with
So
captions.
Insta was the perfect
Yeah,
platform.
I had some 2,000 followers
Mm.
on Insta. But pandemic,
Mm.
when COVID struck, that's when everybody started asking for workshops, and I was doing and I was posting, and it's like I just cannot believe the kind of traction it's got. Probably I talk about what I do every day. It's not like I'm
Mm.
creating a content. It's just my
Yeah.
daily practices. If I go upstairs to put my compost, I'll do a reel or take a video, or I
Mm.
talk about something. So it's very organic, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad I'm able to reach out to so many people who follow me, so that I can say that on a daily basis, take on a practice to help
Yeah.
nurture this planet. So that's the opportunity I get, and I'm so grateful for that, because to me, when I compost, I feel I pay my rent on this planet.
There's always more way than one. Thank you so much, ma'am. This has been a fantastic interaction, and thank you so much for being so patient. The questions aren't ending, but I think we have to cap it somewhere. I
Thank
know
you,
this has
Abhiir.
been,
Thank you.
if you want more ideas on DIYs and how to lead a zero waste lifestyle, do check out ma'am's page. Go see some of the really creative videos and suggestions that she has. So
Yeah.
that's all.